Have you ever seen such an art style that you fall in love with it? And as you know well, Fire Emblem is a franchise. From the beginning, it has been tough as a tactical RPG where you move your units like a big game of chess. There are few words that could define Fire Emblem, but let's say that war, strategy, and fantasy are the three perfect words for it. But that doesn't mean that every Fire Emblem is born the same. The original Fire Emblem Gaiden released in March of '92. It was far too different to what you may expect from a game of this franchise. Reviving fallen units, upgrading your units for a third time to get a boost, exploration in caves and towns, and fighting the dead to farm some experience. Yeah, it was way too different. So it can be someone's favorite or not, but it is undeniable that it was the favorite of Toshiyuki Kusakihara, who after Awakening was already thinking of this remake. The director of Intelligent Systems actually wanted certain artist called Hidari to do the character design and art for Fates and Awakening. But far from what he planned, the artist already had other stuff to do, so they couldn't come in any agreements. But Kusakihara liked their art so much that they still wanted them to be part of a Fire Emblem game so badly, at any cost. And they were not wrong because what Hidari did with this game was something so good that it made the developers want to add a portrait that does take a bit of a space on the lower screen for each character. When we talk about Hidari art, we are talking about something rough, yet so harmonious. At first, Hidari had to come with the style for this game, and that started with the design of Alm, or Alm. It took multiple retakes for him to look the way he does now. At first he had too much armor, or he was either too extravagant, until he reached the current design. Yeah, a perfect slender frame that also looks strong and heroic, a blue tone that depicts heroines. And here is where I come with the base as to what makes Hidari character design perfect for Fire Emblem, almost as a whole. If we take a look, we had metal body plates and shoulder protection that resembles those of the German Gothic armor. And the piece of armor in the knees, also known as grips, could be reminiscent of how the knights of the Holy Roman Empire had theirs. There are some Renaissance touches to the armor, and in fact, we do see more of this in other designs. Here are some words of Hidari in an interview after the release of Fire Emblem Echoes. Alm's initial design, as it was a remake, I had to consider how much the character should resemble the original, and often sought consultation on the matter. His blue armor retained its regal air at first, but from this draft one can see I was trying to decide whether to go on a simple design, or one that was more out of place to the context. And from here, Hidari was free to come up with the rest of the designs. To prove my point on what makes this art so perfect, let's talk about more inspirations that make the clothing in this game being more believable. Rinea might be the perfect example as she encapsulates everything I want to showcase about the character design. So let's talk about her multi-layered long skirt dress, that it could be easily inspired from the Victorian era, alongside the corset and the ascot that also gives this luxurious ballroom dance fit from the same late Rococo. The sleeves really make her more elegant and look at how well thought out are all those fashion details. taken from the 19th century. I didn't say that wrong. To me, this is the game that mixes fantasy and real-life medieval inspiration the best in this franchise. Echoes really gives off those vibes of something that was brought from the past into modern times. It really lets you know that it's a remake in and out of the game. Regarding about Hidari way of painting, when we see the character renders, they add volume in a really subtle way, with a small contrast that derived from the same base color, like working with oil even. A thin liner that is completed with bolder brushy lines, that make all the render as something painted in a traditional way. You can in fact notice this more in the borders of each render, and compare the liner to the one in the hair, or the little details such as the eyelashes. Again, the low saturation and tones make it look like as if time has passed for this art. Of course, that's something more related to the art style of the artist, but here it feels so well here. In fact, the mobile game called Fate Grand Order, Hidari also made art for it, so yet again, another medieval setting. And yeah, his art speaks of medieval times so well. This one is called The Divine Banquet. His art looks so delicious here, it makes me want to eat it for breakfast. Hidari was also the artist for the novels called Flying Mikon and Broken Machan, a summer color miracle, and we can see the same use of tones, soft color palette and watercolor touches, the thin liner that contrasts so well with the bolder outlines. And now here is where I take you to another historical backtrack of what makes their art great. Yeah, we are learning a lot today. The colors from the art resemble to me just so much to the paintings from between the 14th and 15th century. The ones that use red ochre and gold tones, because of the low saturation of the colors and the green tones of those as well. We can even assume this dusk palette in numerous medieval paintings as something akin to the divinity and religious devotion. From here I'm going to apologize because I'm speaking English but I don't know French. The French are killing me. There may be some mishaps of pronunciation here and there. Masta by Duccio di Buoninsegna makes the red robes of the followers stand out without the gold in the background. So yeah, does that sound familiar to you? Ognisanti Madonna by Giotto di Bondone. Yet again, the golden tones as symbol of divinity, and soft red painting in this fresco, being shown in the robes, wings, and even the throne. Red and gold were so often used to contrast, and also in religious paintings. Annunciation with Saint Margaret and Saint Ansanus from the 1333 by Simon Martini and Lippo Memmi. Same use of colors as before. Look at the Disputation of the Holy Sacrament by Raphael. The Angel Turtle, yeah. This fresco does use twilight or gold skies for its heaven, showcasing divinity while also keeping those tones that thus look ancient, historic, which is what the art of this game resembles of. Like how the main cover puts said gold sky as a medium to create a focal point towards our characters. Remember that in this entry, there's a theme about fighting the gods, so these same golden skies depict this fight between humans and deities. The red flags of rebellion that yet again has the same red ochre that was used sometimes to make gold stand out. The skies are as important as the characters here, because none of the colors of the main couple come to waste here. This illustration shows the main male and female characters standing back to back with the air of a historic war tale. It has been arranged in a way that the castle, tropes, and dark clothes express how difficult of a journey lies ahead. After some discussion, it was chosen as the main illustration for the game Though it's not the most stylish composition, it has a lot of components crammed into one image, like the original world from 25 years ago, almost 30 years from this game. With red usher tones for the menus and HUD of the game. It gives a more rusty and ancient vibe. And this also plays out pretty well with the dusk, like orange tones used in the 3D section of the fights. In fact, this dusk atmosphere was really fitting in Fire Emblem Fates, making certain stages stand out like the first one. But here in Echoes, I get the feeling that it stands out even more whenever it's possible, because of the thematic, because the Twilight is used more as a visual thematic of the game. Not for nothing, one of the final tracks is called The Twilight of the Gods. Yeah. Something that was present from the previous games, ever since they wanted to get Hidari into these titles. So now all of that comes well together. The aesthetic is great because thanks to all those changes, it makes the more traditional visual aspect of the maps stand out more. What do I mean by this? You saw how in Fire Emblem Awakening the visual aspect of the map was always one of a paper-drawn map. Well, here that aspect still is in the new maps, except that thanks to the tones of the green used, it looks even more old or medieval, let's say. It makes us appreciate the green tones more. Every time a vibrant color comes in the game, it makes you appreciate it more. Despite being a game that visually is not that built around contrast, regarding the art and the HUD, but the maps still have that contrast, the red tones that communicate danger. So the less green there is, the more dangerous a stage is. I think that's great because you can have your opinions about their design, and that's valid. I'm just saying that there's more to the visual aspect of the game than just the renders or the character design. That complements itself so well with the atmosphere and feeling of the game, you know? A green medieval love story where war simply can't be avoided. What was your aim with Echoes? Well, as a whole, it was designed as a remake so as to retain the air of a good old fantasy. See? While also aiming to appeal and be acceptable to today's players. I had to actively strive to maintain a balance between the two. Regarding the clothes, there were already different types of established outfits for each class, so I arranged for each of the characters to wear clothes based on these designs. When it came to these designs, I carefully designed it as not to be too overly complex. Other games have such gorgeous or showy characters, and so their designs often call for being rather dense. Things like this have been drilled into my very nature. But since this was a remake, I tried not to add excessive amount of accessories. Despite that, they still came out a little more complex than before. When thinking of armor designs, I often reference familiar things as a motif. It's hard to put in words exactly, but things like a Japanese sliding screen, a golem, a steel rack or pillar, etc. It's more of a story about humanity and the way humans sometimes tend to struggle and take opposite roads for one goal. All that can end in tragedy, and also their rebellion against their, in this setting, failed gods. In fact, that's somewhat what the 3DS games were more or less trying to convey, because in Awakening we try to avoid a grim future. There's a lot of adventure and sadness throughout it, but it never reaches such depressing lows. So the visual aspect doesn't let that become the predominant atmosphere of the adventure. It's still a hopeful adventure, with how colorful some of these cinematics can be. Fates, a tragic war between people that could have been a family or allies. Ignore the incest, please. So Hidari artwork has been still perfect for all the three entities. But it influenced so much to this remake that to me, it's simply impossible to play the game and don't think about Hidari. And that's why I think he's the perfect artist for the Fire Emblem. At least for the 3DS titles. Even Three Houses, to be honest. But if every game looked the same, then where would be the identity they all have? Yeah, I still want more Hidari though. How did you come up with the various character poses? The poses had to be something that could express the characters in a suitable way. But since there were quite a few characters, I had to come up with quite a variety of poses, to avoid them becoming dull or repetitive. In Awakening and Fates, the designer, Mr. Yusuke Kosaki, characters were shown from all sorts of angles, such as back view or sitting down. Seeing them drawn that way, I realized that he set the precedent that I too could get away with doing. On other media I have worked on, I am used to hearing, "Please make it front view only," or "We can't see their waist if they are sitting, so don't do it." Hidari expresses that Junsuemi influenced the coloring style. Hiroaki Samura influenced the drawing style, yeah. And that's all for today. Yet again, I think I can remember you to like, subscribe and check the other videos. Please, will you do that? I don't know what to say. I don't know how to end this. Just kidding. Support me, yeah. I'm a Fire Emblem Arden, so follow me in Blue Sky, I guess. Yeah. Thanks to Avo, Abolition Breed, Alderian, Unknown Sea, Silver Zero, Die Game Playa, Mindless Reader, G-Man, and Element Intervention for supporting me at Patreon, and I'm really happy and grateful, yeah. I love you, that's, yeah. No.